This is just a quick warning. The content in this video is going to be disturbing to some viewers. And the reason it's going to be disturbing is because it is true. Now, there are varying degrees of truth depending on the circumstances, but universally, most women have these characteristics, these qualities. They don't all exhibit them in the same way all the time, but nevertheless, they're true. Since we were young men, we were always given the virtues of women. We were always told how virtuous they were. And women do a lot of virtue signaling to each other and to us and to society at large because they want to be seen as very virtuous. And sometimes they can be extremely virtuous. But oftentimes they can be very, very insecure. And these insecurities can manifest in what appears to be acts of abject cruelty. And that's what I want to talk about today, is the hidden truth behind some women's behavior, because it can be very disturbing, almost to the point of being pathological. Let's talk about it. A lot of these truths came to light in the popular teen movie Mean Girls. I think it was out like maybe 10 or 12 years ago. And it was the story of this, this girl comes to a new high school and how all the popular girls conspire to destroy her. And I think it opened a lot of eyes, especially among women, that these behaviors are just so universal. And even though in the movie, obviously, it was hyperbolic and they were, using extreme measures, nevertheless, these behaviors, they ring true. And I think most women recognized it when they watched the movie. They realized that they have this passive-aggressive way of approaching relationships and that their friendships with women sometimes are superficial and lack trust and are manipulative. And these kinds of behaviors are toxic, obviously, but they are universal too. Now, I'm not saying all women do this all the time, obviously. That can't possibly be. It would be chaos. But under the right circumstances, women can be pushed to be quite petty with one another and will take indirect action to harm each other. At least with men, if we get angry with a man, there's a direct confrontation. Now, it may not involve physical violence, but there will be a direct confrontation. There's no question about it. Women do everything they can to avoid that direct confrontation. So they have something called indirect confrontation that is probably a lot crueler and meaner than just getting punched in the nose, If you've ever worked at a company where there was a woman boss, you probably noticed that other women do not respect her as much as they would a male boss. Now, fortunately, I was a male boss, but I had subordinates. I had a woman that worked basically as my right-hand person, and she had a lot of responsibility, and she had to oversee quite a number of employees in some aspects of their jobs. And she was a taskmaster. She was efficient, and she was extremely good at what she did. She was not one of those women that you trifle with. And yeah, women would test her all the time. Men would just fall in line and do exactly what she said. But women would be constantly trying to subvert her at every opportunity. They would use passive-aggressive tactics, like saying that they were going to perform a task and then just not do it, or come up with some lame excuse as to why it couldn't be done, just resisting her at every single turn. Ironically, men, when she would give directions to them, would just do it. They would just, like, okay, she's the boss, they would just do it. So there's something about having a woman in a position of authority that really can be disruptive for women. I saw a study that had been done, and it's actually been performed now for like the last 60 or 70 years, where women are surveyed about their opinions about working for a man or a woman. And about 40% of the women surveyed said they would not want to work for a woman, or they found that working for a woman to be a less desirable situation than working for a man. And I found that to be extremely interesting, especially given the results of the most recent election where Kamala Harris, lost. And I sort of wonder if, the Democratic Party takes that into account, because this lack of respect for women, this lack of desire to have a woman in a position of authority seems to be widespread. It's not something that is unique to the United States. I think most Western countries, and certainly a lot of developing countries, have exactly the same idea. And it's not necessarily the men that are having the difficulty with it, although some men certainly do. It's the women, which is fascinating. Women get a lot of accolades for their ability to cooperate with one another. And certainly their ability to cooperate is, a characteristic, a virtue that I think that is recognizable, and is one that's probably pretty easy to define. But at the same time, women can be quite underhanded when they're in these cooperative environments. Women, historically, our ancestors, were competitive for men. And so even though women may put on an act, or they may act like they're in a very cooperative environment, frequently they will have another agenda, one that is set to undermine the people that she appears to be cooperating with, especially if that woman perceives one of the women in her cooperative group as a threat, because that woman is very attractive, or is very sexually open, or has some other characteristic that makes her a competitive threat to what she might perceive as her husband, her boyfriend, whatever it may be. But if there's a woman there that could possibly be a competitor, women will be very, very cruel in the way that they dispatch them. And I do mean dispatch them. Women are very good at making friends with their competitors. And in fact, they are, that is a primary tactic that they use, is by becoming friendly with the person that they're most competitive with, and earning that person's trust so that they will share their darkest, deepest secrets with them. And then once those secrets have been captured by the woman, she will use those secrets as ammunition against her competitor. She will use them to isolate her socially by spreading rumors about her, by gossiping behind her back. She will use it to humiliate her in public. This is where the cyberbullying thing comes from. Girls posting crap about each other on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever. She will do it to undermine that woman at her job, or with her husband or her boyfriend. She'll do it to destroy this woman in every way possible, psychologically, emotionally, socially. Women are very, very good at stabbing each other in the back. And these tactics go back, I think, probably to the caveman days, because they did perceive that if their man didn't come home, or their man was gone, and they needed to compete with other women for another man, they needed to use these kinds of tactics. But of course, they would not confront other women directly, because they needed to preserve their physical health, because obviously they needed to take care of children and all that sort of thing. So they couldn't, or more than likely, more often than not, would not physically attack another woman. But going after her socially, going after her emotionally and psychologically, those are all fair game. And women have been doing that for a very, very long time. I have seen these tactics played out many, many times in my life. I remember the first time my little sister got into a fight at the bus stop. I think she was in kindergarten and I was like in the second grade, and she picked a fight with some girl. And although the fight never really happened, there was no physical altercation, when later that day after school, my sister created what she called a a milkshake for her competitor. And of course, she went into the bathroom and just poured everything she could think of, shampoo, liquid soap, whatever she could find, mixed it with some water and made it look like chocolate or whatever, and left it on her competitor's front doorstep with a little note saying how sorry she was for their argument, and as a token of her friendship, she offered her this milkshake. Of course, I was just gross. I was just trying to kill her. That was my 5-year-old sister's first attempted murder, and luckily the girl didn't drink it. But that was when I first became aware that, wow, girls are schemers. Like, they'll come up with ways to get you that you would never think of. And that's sort of why I want to tell you about this, because as men, like I said, we've been told all about the virtues of women and how great they are and how much nurturing they are and empathetic they are and all that stuff. But they also have this very dark side you have to be conscious of and have your radar up, because they'll do that to each other, but they will also do that to you. If they deem that you are a competitive threat, they will do it. Women have this innate ability to covertly act without remorse. And they make the perfect spies. They will have a completely separate agenda, and they will hide their true agenda from you. And they hide it from their friends, and they hide it from their confidants, and they will have a completely separate agenda, and they will enact that agenda regardless of who it harms. Women are completely capable of surviving at all costs. And if they perceive that they are threatened for any reason at all, they will use these tactics, these indirect tactics, to take you down. If they'll do it to their best friend, trust me, they'll do it to you. Of course, women are known for being very empathetic and very nurturing. However, if they deem a threat, if they see a threat or they feel like their survival is in some way threatened, and that can be social survival, it's not just physical survival, they feel like their reputation is threatened, whatever it may be, if they're jealous, if they have any of those kinds of negative emotions, they will put together a covert plan, and they will use their empathy. They can wield it like a sword. They can pretend to be concerned about your welfare, concerned about the welfare of their friends, concerned about the welfare of people that they declare they love. And they will use that empathy as a way to get inside your head or inside the head of that other person. And they will use that information that they gain. They'll find your soft spots, and they will save that information until the appropriate time when it can cause the most damage and the most pain. Now, like I said, not all women are this evil, and they're not all pathological. But these behaviors are so commonplace that Hollywood can make a movie about it, and it can be a blockbuster movie. And it's even like a cult classic. I mean, Mean Girls, I think there's even a second Mean Girls that's out already, resonated with so many people that the truth behind it was clear and is obvious to us all. So as men, we need to take note that these characteristics are commonplace. Now, not all women will use it, not all women will do this sort of thing. I don't want to even suggest that all women are pathological and evil, but just know that these behaviors are there. And if you don't watch yourself, they'll catch you off guard. So watch for them in any girl that you may be getting into a relationship with, or any woman you might be getting into a relationship with. If they're treating their friends like this, or they're communicating with you about women that they are in competition with and are using these kinds of tactics to destroy that person's reputation, to spread rumors, to be a gossip, that sort of thing, just realize she'll do that to you too. This is not something that she's just doing to her friends and she wouldn't do to you. No. These are the behaviors that are in her. This is what comes out when she is squeezed. There's an old, I don't know, I can't remember when it was. I heard this, I think it was from Wayne Dyer. And he says, what comes out when you squeeze an orange? Oh, obviously orange juice comes out. So what comes out when they squeeze you? And if it's hatred, bitterness, jealousy, and all that crap, why does that come out? Because that's what's inside. Just like the orange juice comes out of the orange, because that's what's inside. So what comes out of her when she feels threatened that's what you got to watch for, because whatever's coming out of her when she feels threatened is what's inside. And that is what will come out when the stress is on, when there's, I don't know, financial trouble in your life, when there is anything that pops up that might be difficult. That's an indication that she is not the kind of woman you want to have in your life, because she is not someone that you can rely on. So what prompted me to make this video today is I was reading in the comments, this young guy, he's 21 years old. He starts off saying, I'm only 21, so take this all with a grain of salt, that kind of thing. And then he goes on to talk about all the wonderful things about women and why men and women should have relationships. And he was just going on and on and on and on, blue pilling it all the way through. You know, and I'm not going to be critical of him. I'm not going to call him out or anything, but I did respond to him. And I didn't do it in a mean way. I was really nice. But I thought, this poor guy, he has no clue what he's up against. He has no clue what he's getting into. He suggested that men should better themselves and we should make ourselves more attractive and richer and healthier, and we should read more books and all these things that we men should be doing to be better for our women, so that we don't get into these issues with women, that maybe they're not so bad after all. Maybe it's just us. We're just not living up to the level that we need to be living up to. Okay, all right. So this video is dedicated to him because he doesn't know what he's talking about. A woman can change on a dime after 10 years. You could be living with the same woman for 10 years and she's exactly the person you married. And then one day you wake up and there's a stranger next to you and you have no idea who this crazy person is. And you don't know what's going to trigger her. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. You know, let me know about your comments. I'd love reading them. And hopefully that guy will read through some of these comments, and please let him know what you think. You know, give him some of your experiences. All right, stay healthy, and if you can, stay single.